The atmosphere behind the scenes at Liverpool has been electric in recent weeks, and not because of results on the pitch. The major twist was the failed attempt to sign Crystal Palace defender Mark Guehi in the dying hours of the last transfer window. The saga seemed to be heading for a happy ending. The Reds had reached an agreement of around £35 million with Palace, including a 10% clause on a future sale. Guehi, 25, even travelled to undergo medical tests, and everything pointed to him donning the red shirt of Anfield. However, the deal collapsed at the last moment when Palace, unable to find a direct replacement, simply pulled the handbrake and blocked the transfer. For the player, who had already dreamt of the move, it was a blow. For Liverpool, a bitter frustration. On Thursday morning, Arne Slot, Liverpool's current manager, broke his silence on the situation during a press conference. With an expression blending disappointment and composure, Slot admitted that the board had indeed been very close to securing Guehi. "It would be ridiculous to deny that we were close to signing him," he confessed. The manager's honesty resonated throughout the Kirkby training centre, revealing that, even with the club's usual caution in negotiations, expectations around the defender had been huge. For Slot, losing Guehi was not just a missed opportunity, but an episode that could have immediately altered the fortunes of Liverpool's defence. Slot emphasised that he does not intend to dwell on what might have been. He acknowledged that, in football, deals that appear certain can fall apart in an instant, and, according to him, this is not exclusive to the Reds. "It has happened to us before, and with other players who thought they were about to sign elsewhere, and suddenly, everything changes," he reflected. This understanding tone showed the more human side of Slot, someone who comprehends the volatility of the market, but who, at the same time, feels deeply when a coveted piece slips away by so little. He also made it clear that if another chance arises to strengthen the squad with quality, Liverpool will not hesitate to act again. Even recognising the frustration, Slot stressed that there is no sense of panic at Anfield. He highlighted the excellent recent performances of Ibrahima Konate and Virgil van Dijk in the match against Arsenal, as well as Joe Gomez's confident appearance in the closing minutes. For the manager, these examples prove that the current squad is still reliable and competitive. Furthermore, he spoke enthusiastically about the arrival of young Giovanni Leone, who has just been called up for his first international appearance, as a sign that the club is also investing in the future. In other words, although Guehi was seen as a major addition, Liverpool is not adrift without him. However, the subtext of Slot's words reveals an interesting detail. His admiration for Guehi's style of play remains intact. He did not hide that the defender, now captain of Crystal Palace, would be a high-level reinforcement for Liverpool's defensive system. "It's a shame, not just for us but for the player too," he said with a look that truly conveyed regret over the missed opportunity. Guehi, after all, is not just a solid defender. He has been one of Palace's pillars, accumulating trophies such as the FA Cup and the Charity Shield, under the guidance of a manager equally praised by Slot. This statement highlighted that, while respecting the player's current moment, the Dutch manager still sees him as an ideal piece to strengthen the Reds. When directly asked about the possibility of Liverpool attempting to sign Guehi again in January, Slot was succinct and precise with an answer of just 8 words. "What I am thinking about most now is Burnley." The seemingly simple sentence carries a powerful message. The immediate focus is the next Premier League clash, not behind-the-scenes speculation. Yet, many journalists present interpreted this response as a strategic way of deflecting the topic without closing the door to a future attempt. In other words, Slot did not say yes, but he also did not say no. And the truth is that behind the scenes, the issue remains alive. Reports from journalist Fraser Fletcher of Team Talk indicate that Liverpool are studying the possibility of going back for Guehi in the January window, possibly with what would be considered a modest offer to try to convince Palace before other giants enter the race. There is clear logic in this move. Guehi's contract ends next summer, meaning he could sign for any club on a free transfer if he does not renew. For Crystal Palace, selling him in the winter could be the last chance to profit from their captain before losing him for nothing. Still, manager Oliver Glasner remains determined to keep the player until the end of the season, which promises to make the upcoming negotiations a true game of chess.
Another element adding tension to this saga is the uncertain future of Ibrahima Konate. The Frenchman, like Guehi, is entering the final year of his contract with Liverpool, and there are persistent rumours that Real Madrid are closely monitoring his situation. Should Konate choose the same path as Trent Alexander-Arnold, who swapped Anfield for the Bernabeu, the Reds could find themselves in an emergency in the defensive department. And this is precisely where Guehi's name gains renewed relevance. He would not only be a luxury reinforcement, but also an immediate solution to a potential gap that could arise soon. All of this makes the Guehi saga a story far from over. For now, Arne Slot insists on keeping the squad focused on the present, with eyes on the Burnley clash, but it is impossible to ignore what is shaping on the horizon. The feeling at Anfield is that this will not be the last time we hear Mark Guehi's name linked with Liverpool. For many fans, the frustration has become fuel. Now more than ever, they dream of seeing Palace's captain wearing the red shirt, leading the defence alongside Van Dijk, and perhaps writing a new chapter of glory at Anfield. In the end, the Guehi saga is a reminder of how unpredictable and thrilling football can be, and of how, sometimes, what seems lost may simply be reserved for an even more epic moment. January is just around the corner, and Liverpool promise not to be mere spectators in this story. If Arne Slot has any say, the chance to strengthen his squad with a defender of Guehi's calibre will never be entirely off the table. What today feels like a missed opportunity could, in a few months, turn into the club's masterstroke of the season.
Excited but natural. After the whirlwind surrounding Mark Guehi's thwarted arrival, which slipped through Liverpool's fingers in the final minutes of the transfer window, Arne Slot now finds himself embroiled in another controversial decision that has shaken the corridors of Anfield. Whereas in the first story, the manager frankly lamented the loss of a heavyweight signing, he now stands at the centre of a calculated, cold, and according to many, absolutely necessary move. Leaving Federico Chiesa out of the Champions League squad and placing his bets on a 17-year-old boy, Rio Mukamoha. The shift was shocking, especially as Chiesa seemed finally ready to emerge as a leading figure. But Slot, who has already shown he does not fear difficult choices, once again demonstrated that his focus is not on pleasing established names, it is on building Liverpool's future, whatever the cost. The context makes this decision even more impactful. Liverpool began the season like a locomotive, boasting a 100% record in the Premier League and an atmosphere of growing optimism following the late window signing of Alexander Isak. Confidence is sky high, but the upcoming schedule is relentless. 7 games in just 21 days, including the Champions League opener against Atletico Madrid and a challenging trip to Turkey to face Galatasaray. It would have been natural to assume that this was the perfect moment for an experienced player like Chiesa to shine. But Slot's plan took a different turn. Instead of the Italian, the spot was given to young Mukamoha, who will now have the chance to experience the weight of European nights before even reaching adulthood. Chiesa, in turn, experienced a mixture of frustration and surprise. After a first season below expectations at Anfield, the start of this new cycle finally seemed to indicate an upward curve. With Luis Diaz's departure not being offset by any direct reinforcement, many believed Chiesa would be the main beneficiary, gaining more opportunities to prove his worth. And he seemed ready. He scored the winning goal on his debut against Bournemouth and, according to Gazzetta dello Sport, even rejected offers from Italy and Turkey over the summer, determined to succeed in red. For this reason, his exclusion from the Champions League squad felt like a punch to the stomach, not only for him, but also for a large portion of fans who saw his perseverance as a symbol of commitment. During Friday's press conference, Slot did not hide that the omission had been painful, but revealed something even more telling: Chiesa's reaction. He of course wasn't happy with this decision, he admitted candidly, but he understood the reasoning. The manager emphasized that the Italian responded in the way any coach dreams of, through work, not complaints. Since the omission, Chiesa has been training intensively, determined to turn disappointment into fuel. For Slot, this says more about the player's character than any speech ever could. He will be ready to help us in the Cups and the League, he reinforced, showing that although currently out of the spotlight, Chiesa is not being discarded. But behind this seemingly harsh choice lies a strategic logic that cannot be ignored. The announced squad applies only to the Champions League group stage, and a new list will be formed for the knockout rounds, should Liverpool advance, as everyone hopes. In other words, Slot is making room to give Mukamoha valuable experience now when the risks are manageable, so that the boy is more mature when the truly decisive matches arrive. This is a long-term investment, a bold move that could yield enormous dividends if the prodigy lives up to the gamble. Another factor weighing in is Chiesa's injury history. Although he has worked hard to improve his physical condition since arriving in England, the question remains, if Liverpool faced a grueling run and had to rely on him blindly, would Chiesa be able to deliver physically? The decision to use him sparingly, preserving him for specific moments and avoiding overload, is more prudent than it may first appear. Slot, it seems, preferred to avoid unnecessary risks and protect the player from a potential physical collapse at the most critical point of the season.
And there is yet another detail many prefer to ignore, but which Slot saw clearly. Nugomaha, despite his youth, may already be capable of contributing at the same immediate level as Chiesa. The manager's boldness is not simply in cutting a veteran, but in recognizing that the raw talents of the boy could blossom faster than expected, and that holding back that growth out of respect for hierarchy could be a fatal error. By placing the youngster on the biggest stage in European football, Slot sends a powerful message. No one has a guaranteed place at Anfield. Merit and timing speak louder than the name on the shirt. In the end, Slot's choice may seem ruthless, but it carries a cold yet visionary reasoning. He knows that easy decisions do not build dynasties. By cutting Chiesa now and making room for the new generation, the manager is thinking not only about the next matches, but the seasons ahead. And if Nugomaha delivers, this daring gamble will be remembered as one of the bravest moves of his tenure. Just as with Mark Guehi, who slipped through by fine margins and could return to the radar in January, Slot shows that his vision extends beyond the immediate present. He is shaping Liverpool's future, even if it means bruising egos and making unpopular choices. And perhaps it is precisely this courage to take risks, to break free from the comfort zone, that is transforming Arne Slot's Liverpool into a relentless machine for results and, more than that, a team ready to dominate tomorrow.